Well, good morning, folks, and welcome back to the farm. It's an incredibly windy day outside today, but we're going to try and get done what we can get done. And we're going to start with is something very, very different for us. Had some visitors to the farm here last night. We seen them down actually just coming up the road as we came home. They stopped in the neighbor's place and then eventually come up to the corner of our driveway, and we're sitting there, and you could tell they were curious about something. So in the country, we don't get too many folks parked at the end of the driveway unless either they want something, they're lost, or something completely untoward. So anyways, I wandered out there, they waved, and we had a conversation. Turns out it's a Muslim family that's looking for sheep. And so, okay, well, yeah, of course, we have sheep. They're looking for a sheep. How can we make this work? And so had a conversation about on-farm slaughter, and they want to come out and do some on-farm slaughter. And my wife was a little bit hesitant about that. And you know what? I've got to admit, I've never really given it much consideration. I know there's a lot of people that are really reserved about doing that. However, we do slaughter our own animals here on the farm, and so the process probably isn't all that different. So did a little bit of homework on it last night, and today's going to be the very first day that we've ever done that on somebody else's behalf here on the farm. Process is called dabiha, or in some pronunciations zabiha, and it's where a deep incision is made to the throat, taking the esophagus and the trachea and the jugular veins all in one quick swipe, and it immediately incapacitates the animal. They exsanguinate, as well as they restrict all the airflow to the brain, and so they die very, very quickly. Very similar to how we butcher the chickens. I know there's some, I guess, it's not very popular in a lot of Western cultures simply because they don't stun the animal first. But in the Muslim culture, as well as in the Jewish culture, to strike the animal on the head or even to use electric shock, in many cases is not allowed. There's certain cases where you can use an electric shock in the Muslim culture, but clearly we're not set up to do that, right? So why do they want to do it on the farm as opposed to go to a slaughterhouse? Well, quite simply, it's important that the animal be calm, that the animal be well kept, that the animal be cared for, and in order to make that ritual slaughter happen in accordance with Islamic law. So then I started thinking about, okay, well, what's the difference between, say, kosher and halal? Well, in fact, when you start doing the homework on the two different things, well, the words actually mean the same thing. They just mean they're permitted, right? In Islamic, halal means it's permitted, and haram means it's forbidden. When you look at the two processes side by side, they're almost identical. The difference really is in the language. The terminology, in fact, is the same. So in Islamic, they're going to say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, which is praise be to God, God is the greatest. Here's the other thing, and this is why I'm in the side-by-side, is because I got to go get the little trailer and move the ram over behind the barn. And it's because in order to do this, it's not supposed to be done inside of any other animals. Now, this is, may seem a little bit strange, may seem a little bit bizarre to Western culture, but the reasoning behind that is because you don't want to traumatize any of the other surrounding animals. Seems pretty logical to me. I mean, I remember butchering a turkey one time with my father-in-law, and the other turkey was standing there watching the whole thing, and I'm pretty sure that turkey got PTSD. So I've got no problem picking up this ram, putting it in a trailer, and then taking it and putting a small pen in behind the barn where it can be peaceful, it can eat a little bit of grass, it can get some sunshine, we can give it some pets. And just like any other animal here on the farm is gonna have a good day. And we want to make sure that sometimes the best day that animal has is the last day on the farm. I mean, it doesn't end well, but nevertheless, it still has a good day. Just hauled the ram over, and I was moving some fencing panels. I'm going to put up a little pen just out here behind the barn. And while I was moving those panels, I snagged my work glove. Look at that, tore that wide open. So I guess there's a little safety message from the farm why it's important to wear work gloves at all times, because if I had not been wearing my work gloves, that would have been the full removal of my fingernail off my pointer finger, and that would not have been a good day on the farm. So I'm going to house this fella until that family comes. And you know, the one shortfall, because I've never done this before, so lessons are going to be learned for sure. There's experiences are going to be had and lessons are going to be learned. But the one thing, and my wife reminded me this morning, is I should have negotiated an on-farm slaughter fee. And I never really gave it any thought last night, but the reality is, you know what, I had spent some time set up a panel. I had to spend some time to segregate the ram from the other animals. I'm gonna have to spend some time to put the horses over here. I'm gonna have to spend some time to lock the dog up. And then when it's all said and done, the unused parts of the carcass, like the hide, for example, I'm then gonna have to take down to the south end of the farm. So, you know, as opposed to just a truck showing up and me ferrying 25 or 30 animals up a ramp and on, it's a little bit more work. You know, it's not a lot of work. I got these nice light panels, they're pretty easy. It's a Sunday, I wasn't really doing much anyways, so it's not a ton of work out of my way. But you know, is it worth 50 bucks? Yeah, it's probably worth 50 bucks, right? So, you know, this guy, I've already set the price, and so I'm going to honor that price. That would be the respectable thing to do. But if the whole process goes smoothly and, you know, it's a good experience, then that's something that for future times we'll definitely be looking to work in, because this is not a permanent setup, right? The whole point of the barn is to be portable and mobile and be able to be flexible. So I'm certainly not going to set up a permanent facility to be able to do this just because, you know, one guy showed up at the end of the driveway. So probably look at charging an extra 50, maybe 75 bucks. We'll see how much work it turns out to be at the end of the day. Of course, during the process, I highly expect that there will be absolutely no footage. So you'll just have to, you know, be happy with me telling you about the experience, simply because, well, A, I want to respect their religious culture, the observances of their practices, and B, showing an animal getting butchered on YouTube is the quickest way to get canceled in 2022. Well, no, that did not go according to plan. I got my pen set up, got the side-by-side on with the trailer, got the ram in the trailer, lower the ramp. It's got a nice little opening here, right? Just gonna come down the ramp, go into the pen, I'll lift this up, and then close this. Now, there's a 4-foot gap here between the edge of the door and the edge of this panel. I can fill that gap, right? I'm 6'4", 250, I'm a big guy. Should be on no problem. I'm standing here doing this, and he comes halfway down and then just does this like weird springbok thing over my head, lands over there, and then just away into the mist. Not really keen on a pail of grain, just wants to go see his buddies. So fortunately, I was able to sprint like, who is that guy? I forget. Anyways, fast runner. Usain Bolt. Yeah, that's what I did. Did the old Usain Bolt across the yard, got the gate open, he went back in there. Now there's the pen, just like this, separating the two paddocks. I flung the one gate open, and in his urge to go see his buddies, runs right in the open gate, realizes he's got nowhere to go. I slam the gate, so he's right back where we started. So that's the save of the century. But needless to say, I still don't have a sheep in this pen. Now, the whole point of this is that it's supposed to be calm. The animal is supposed to be well treated. Everything is supposed to be humane. Now, if this were just me, and I was only worried about me, I'd probably be a little elevated right now. But I'm not, because that was out of my control. Well, maybe it was a little bit in my control, but nevertheless, what has already happened is no longer in my control. So I'm going to be calm. I'm going to open this gate. I'm going to fold the trailer ramp back up, and we're going to drive around, and we're going to go and try again. All right, so I got the fella back in now. He's back in the trailer, and well, I heard it said the definition of insanity is just doing the same thing again and expecting a different result. Well, I've just moved the panel slightly. Theoretically, I've got a smaller gap here. Fingers crossed. Old sky jumper there doesn't take any funny ideas. I guess this time, I might as well let you watch. Oh, of course. Of course. Come on out, fella. Come on out, fella. You can do it. Just go down. Don't go up. Go down. Don't you see that gap? Look. Grain treats. Go get some grain treats. I'll just hide out of the way maybe. You can do it, fella. There we go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Now that I caught the ram, you might think my job here as a producer is done. Well, not quite, not quite. I'm gonna go get a bucket of water. I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna put a tarp across, make sure he's got some shade. He's out of the wind already. My number one priority, right up until that animal is dispatched, is animal welfare. During the process, my number one priority is making sure that the process is humane. And then after the butchering and all that, dealing with disposal, carcass and all that, my number one priority is biosecurity on the farm. So I still need to be heavily involved in this process. And so there's no point, at any point in this process, am I gonna just, let go of the reins. I have to be here to observe the whole thing. And after this whole little escapade round and around, I can definitely say lesson learned, which I already kind of knew this morning after my wife said it immediately. I was like, yes, that's a smart idea, was that on-farm butcher fee, because the round and the round and the time and the, that's why I think a lot of people don't do it. It's not necessarily they're I guess hesitant about the process, more so it's hesitant about the additional work that's required for a single animal. And so that has to be recompensed in some way. But like I said earlier, I already made my deal. It's a learning experience, and the next time we do it, it's going to be slightly different. Well, that's that. Folks came, they saw, they butchered a sheep. All in all, it was actually a pretty good experience. A couple of things that were slightly different from what we would usually do. For us, of course, we're going to shoot the animal first and then bleed it out. In this particular case, they go directly to bleeding it out, which is a little bit different. The other thing I wasn't certain of is whether or not they were bringing any kind of a ground tarp down, so I actually brought a big piece of plastic down because we were doing it right in the barn here with the gambrel hook and everything. So laid that plastic down just to keep everything clean, not only clean in the barn, but clean for their meat. And it's a good thing because they didn't have that. And another thing that was different is typically if we're gonna cut, we'd be looking to use a table, make your cuts, wrap it, and then throw it directly in a freezer. Whereas what they did is they brought out plastic bags and they made large cuts. So when I had the conversation with them yesterday about whether or not they wanted it cut up, they said they wanted it cut up. And so I kind of misunderstood. I thought they wanted it like cut up into like roasts and ribs and all that kind of stuff, chops. No, they basically just needed 5 or 6 large cuts that they could put into a big plastic bag. And so they brought out some white bags initially, and turns out they were like scented garbage bags that just for like kitchen catchers. So that wasn't good. But they did actually have some black, regular garbage liner bags that had no scent or anything like that on them. So they're able to do that. Yeah, half a dozen cuts, and away they go. Everything in the cooler, and everything's triple happy teddy bears. I will say most definitely it is quite a bit more work for me. So 100% next time, if there is a next time, if the opportunity arises, next time we'll be charging an additional fee for the on-farm slaughter, just for things like site prep, seclusion of the animal by itself in its own little pen, because they got to be in there, they got to be calmed down. You can't just move them 10 minutes beforehand. And then as well as getting everything cleaned up afterwards, right? I still have to deal with the hide and the guts. For the most part, they took the entire animal, even the jewelry, which I didn't know, but they do. So good for them, less waste. And less for the crows to clean up here as well. But that certainly hasn't curbed my appetite, so I think I'm going to close the big barn door here and head in and have myself a salami sandwich. So I'll let you go for now. I hope you have a fantastic Sunday afternoon. I'll see you tomorrow.